My people, what up though? We back with episode 3 of season 2 of All Black Men Need Therapy. My name is Chief.
I'm Bell.
My name is Prentice.
And here we go again. Let's get this party rolling. For those of you who did not watch the complete or listen to the complete episode last week, I am pleased to say that I have attended 3 personal therapy sessions since then. I'm active about it, and we'll talk more about it on Daddy Issues Part 2.
Oh, we decided we're going to do that?
I mean, we had a Part 1. It's only right. We labeled it Part 1, so we got to move it to Part 2. You know what I'm saying?
Yo.
So we'll go from there. Pete, don't nod your head, B. We got one more round at least, man.
Yo, what if we got an ad on the last
It's not funny. It's not even funny. Like, that's not even like, for those of you who are watching, you can see my face. Like, it's not funny. I didn't laugh at all. I didn't smile. Didn't smirk.
Like, what if that's what the therapist recommended?
Nah. So what the therapist recommended.
Wait, you said what? If the therapist recommended what?
He said, what if that's what the therapist recommended?
To get his dad on part 2.
All right. I guess. Whatever.
No, we're not doing that, though.
Yeah.
So the thing is,
if we had your dad on, Prentice, we might get banned by the SEC. You know what I'm saying? So
we
might be better served with Chief Dad.
We're going to talk about it in Daddy Issues Part 2. But nevertheless, today, we're going to talk about breakups and the impact it has on us as men and how we deal with it and all that good stuff. Because I know personally, there's been several occasions where I've, hid and tried to play tough when I'm at home, sad, mad, depressed. You know what I'm saying? So we can dive into that and see how it goes. And do you, in past experience, do you typically do the breaking up, or you get broken up with?
Always the breakup person. Always.
You are?
Yeah. Every time. Every time.
Really?
Yeah. Every time.
That goes back to what he said, though. He don't like people just walking out on him. So if he's in control, you know what I'm saying?
That makes him feel a little bit better. Is that how you avoid your abandonment issues? You be the first one to pull the trigger?
Damn, bro, y'all getting hella deep, hella hard, hella quick, man. I don't
Hey, man, this is what it's about. You know what I'm saying? Tapping in them emotions, cuz. Tapping in them emotions.
I'm joking, man. I don't know, man. I know when I'm done, I'm done. That's the thing about me. Like, it is literally every breakup I've ever had. The moment I knew I was done, I went and was like, look, I'm done, man. I don't know if it got to do with control, honestly, or I usually try to give everything I feel I can, and then when I feel like it's just not there anymore, then I'm out.
Because I know a lot of y'all history, I do believe in the statement, when you're done, you're done. Mm-hmm. But I distinctly remember you being done, but not done. You know what I'm saying? Like, you, in your mind, it's over.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was a quote I saw when they said, sometimes it takes your heart longer to accept the things your mind already knows.
Oh, yeah, that's very true. That's a fact. For me, it is, yeah. Yeah, I've been in a relationship that was done for years, and I was still in it, but it took, like you said, that heart to be the confirmation, man.
Have you ever been broken up with?
Yeah, early, yeah, and I was like 19. Yeah.
Well, do you remember what it felt like? And did it feel different than when you pulled the trigger?
Or before you answer, is that the reason why you now pull the trigger?
It's not the reason, but I remember exactly what it felt like, because she accidentally called me while she was fucking her ex-boyfriend in the back seat.
Jesus Christ! well, that's fucked up.
And she had the nerve to break up with you?
That part, bro. Like, but she called. I'll never forget. My phone rang. And I guess they was wrapping up the mission. And he was awesome. I love you too. I'll talk to you later type shit. And then she realized the phone was on, and she said, hello? And I said, for real? And she said, click. And hung up on me. And then called me back like, this isn't working.
You think?
Yo, Pete, I don't mean to laugh at you, fam, but that's funny.
Now that I think about it, it is kind of funny, but because it threw me all the way off. I was like, wait.
Should hit you with a player. This ain't the move.
And then she was so cold. She was so cold about it. I couldn't even get my my thoughts off. She was out. She got caught up and just didn't want to deal with it. So she just cut me.
Wow.
That's crazy.
And then
That's...
was the cold part. The cold part. She ended up having a baby with the dude. And then about 6 or 7 years ago, she hit my line on Facebook asking me to mentor her son.
She bold.
That son
She bold.
that could have potentially been conceived the night she cheated on you. Or
Right.
Could have been, man. Could have been, but was with the dude. She asked if I could mentor him, and I just left that alone, man. I just blocked her. I wasn't even gonna go through that,
That's
cold-blooded.
So yeah, that was my only breakup where the woman broke up with me.
That's cold-blooded, and they call us the bad ones and the dogs and all that, fam.
I'm telling you, man.
That's crazy.
They can be ruthless sometimes.
Yeah, I haven't had that many relationships, but I remember not being okay with breaking up. I remember just being like, I'm gonna just hang out till she just ended. And again, this was early. I was early 20s. I think where that stemmed from was, I'm like, I didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings, I think that's where it was for me. You know what I'm saying? And then since then, I've only had one relationship after that. And then now my current relationship. So, and then my last relationship, I was not a good person. So, like,
he was like Prentice ex-girl.
not that bad, but not that far off. Put it this way. I was so bad that something came up where I thought she cheated, and I'll never find out. She'll never confirm it, but in my heart, she did. And I was basically like, it's okay. It's okay. Like, I owe you that. Like, I owe you that.
You can have that.
That's one of the questions going down the line. Like,
yeah,
would you take it back after cheating? So did you recognize your fault in that breakup? Like, even though she broke up with you, obviously because she was cheating, like, do you, thinking back at it now, not that it matters or has any relevance, but do you think you were doing what you were supposed to be doing to prevent her from stepping out like she did?
But I was 19 years old, making $6 an hour working at Foot Locker at the mall. But I don't know. I just know that we liked each other. But you know what? I'm tripping. But that's not the only time I've been broken up with. I don't know how I forgot this. One of my son's mothers broke up with me while she was 4 months pregnant.
Was that the end of it though?
Yeah. That was the end of the relationship.
During the pregnancy.
She broke up with me while pregnant with my son. Okay. Yeah, that was a bad one. That one was bad.
That had to feel different.
That did. That one was, I don't know why that didn't cross my mind when you first said it, because I think it was hella traumatic, because she broke up with me 4 months pregnant, got with somebody else immediately after. He was at the delivery room when my son was born. And then a couple of months after my son was born, she moved to Florida. So that whole process was, that was actually really traumatic. I'm tripping not thinking about that. Yeah.
Side note for the people who don't know, that relationship has been mended and everything is copacetic now and all good.
Oh man, yeah. Let's put that out there. One thing I'm never gonna do on this show is mess up my healthy relationship. You know what I'm saying? So let's be very clear that we do a great job co-parenting. Both moved on and support each other. My son's mother, her daughter and my daughter, they play on the phone and play games. We all good, man. So yeah, we good. Things happen. You know what I mean?
No,
things
happen. For sure. Now, do you recognize your fault as to why she would pull the trigger on you 4 months pregnant?
Absolutely not.
You didn't, or still, like, you didn't at the time figure out what you were doing wrong to make her be like, nah, I'm out?
No. No, I didn't. No. There's nothing I can think of that even now or at the time made me feel like, oh, okay, this makes sense.
Did she tell you why and you just didn't agree?
I don't even remember. It was so foggy, man. Like I was having my first child, shout out to DC. Me and one of my best friends, DC, we were living together. So I remember when she did it, I still had to go to doctor's appointments every month. You know what I'm saying? I still had to kind of put in my head the fact that I'm about to be a father, and now I'm not with the woman who's having my baby, and she's already with somebody else. And, you know, I got into a little scrap with him at one point in time, man. So I think being 27 at that time and having my first child, it was just more so about trying to grasp everything that was happening that I couldn't control, rather than looking at, you know, what I could have did wrong to leave it there.
Right.
If that makes sense.
It does. But I definitely think there's a correlation with you being left and you not letting anybody leave you anymore. But we can table that. I'm just thinking out loud.
How did that impact y'all, the breakups emotionally, from the point where you broke up with her and when she broke up with you?
Oh man, I was on some fuck everybody type shit when that happened.
What
you know
want?
what I mean?
Both of them? Or
Nah. The 19 when I was 19, I was on to the next. You know what I'm saying? Like that wasn't no sweat off. Other than the embarrassment and not getting to get my thoughts off after it happened. But I was 19, man. You know, we ripping and running anyways at that age, so it wasn't really nothing to me after that. I was just on some fuck everybody shit. But luckily, you know, you come across more people. You come across a support group. You come across other women. You know, so it worked itself out, man. I think I'm at the point now where I'm so like healed from it that I can't even look at it in the same aspect as I did when it happened. You know? Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. But isn't that how we sort of mask our emotions? Like we go through the breakup and it's on to the next, and we think that the next is what's helping us heal, but in actuality, we haven't dealt with the shit that we're supposed to be dealing with, which is why that relationship didn't work out, or maybe the next one didn't work out because we haven't taken the opportunity to sit back and go, damn, I need to reflect. I need to heal from this because it's had me messed up.
Yeah, man. Because you know the crazy thing is when we decided we were going to do this topic, the one thing I thought about is the fact that I have, you know, my last 3 breakups, I had babies with these women. So a breakup ain't really a breakup. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So my last 3 relationships prior to the final one that I'm in now, thank God, we leave the relationship, but we still got work to do. We still got an 18-year bond we got a lifetime bond, but you know how they say we got an 18-year bond at minimum. So I never, you know, my adulthood. You know, I had my first child at 27. My adulthood just consisted of me breaking up, but still being very much so involved because we got to raise this child together.
So the interesting thing is a couple has a child and they are no longer together. Now, how you deal with that breakup could impact how your relationship with your child. You know what I'm saying?
That's a whole nother podcast episode.
And that's what I was thinking, because in most cases, the large majority of cases, the mother is a custodial parent with the child. In most cases, not all. Obviously, my case is one of the exceptions. But but I was just thinking about that, right? Like, you know, one of the questions is how we process the emotions afterwards. And how we process our emotions could have a bearing on our relationship with our child and the woman. But the one that really matters is how they process it, since they physically have the child. You know what I mean? And I feel like sometimes emotion overtakes logic when it comes to that situation. You know what I'm saying? And
and that balance, it's a struggle with that balance.
Yeah.
Then you gotta. I've been blessed to say this, man. I've always been the type to place my child over my own emotions. The only time I think I ever let my emotions supersede my logic was in the name of my child. You know what I'm saying? But I've always been the type where I can put whatever it is we went through or are going through, I can put that to the side for my kid. When the other individual isn't on that same page, sometimes you got to be, quote unquote, like that bigger person. You know what I mean?
But that also speaks to your level of self-awareness. So just hear me out. Your ability to understand that there has to be a disconnect. All right. Like, your feelings and emotions can't be contingent on how well, not how well, but how you are with your child. And regardless of what you feel, you're able to separate them. You know what I'm saying? But because, or maybe it's not self-awareness. Maybe it's your EQ, right? Your emotional intelligence. Maybe that could be it too. You know what I'm saying? In terms of Because I mean, you're like glossing over that, but that's kind of a big deal. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, it's something I never really thought about until right now, until us having that discussion. You know what I mean? You kind of just go with the flow. And when I think about my past relationships and breakups, I don't actually. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't really think about them too much, only under the context of my children.
Yeah.
And again, you know, my last 3 breakups came with a child ending up being there, you know, even after we broke up. So there's always been that thought process, like, okay, we're not together, but we still got work to do. You know, we still got to co-parent. So I don't really got time to be talking about whatever it is we went through, or whatever it is we did. We got to move forward and raise these kids.
And I know exactly what that feels like, because I think that's how conveniently how you and I we ended up building this connection via the trauma bonding.
Yeah, man.
We were both going through them tense moments at the time, and we kind of like leaned on each other in regards to, you know, how we respond to it. And I think it took me a while. I was always able to separate the two in terms of the breakup and then being a father. But it took me a while to kind of learn when to step back and ignore. And just, you know what I'm saying? I would let myself get jumped into these petty conversations and arguments just because that's kind of what it was when we were together or whatever. And then we separate and we're still doing that same thing. Like, why? We're not even invested in each other like that anymore. I shouldn't be doing that. And I was watching Will Smith today on his wife's joint, the Red Table Talk. He took over one time and he said something, and it made me think of us, honestly speaking. And he said, the only female relationship I've ever had that I didn't mess up is the one with my daughter. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, that's pretty legit. You know what I'm saying? I mean, she may have a different, she's 9, but she may have a different view on that. But honestly, I think I'm doing very well as a dad for her. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, when he said that, I'm like, wow, that's pretty deep. Like, the only female relationship I didn't mess up.
I 100% agree with that.
Is the one I have with her.
100% agree with that. My question is does that mean, is the question, that that's the only female that you put before yourself?
I don't think so, but I think it took me a while to realize that I wasn't putting her before myself, which is a lesson now that I'm thoroughly aware of, and I'm very cognizant of the fact that.
So you just answered that. Maybe I didn't hear you clear. You're saying you don't think your daughter is the first woman that you put before yourself, but you
on a consistent basis. On a consistent, I mean, you get spurts where something happens and you consider that. So that's happened.
But your daughter is consistent.
On a consistent basis, being like, okay, this is what a man should do. You learn when to step back and understand this is a sacrifice you've made for your relationship. With my kids in general, it's never a question.
Yeah, I guess another layer to that too, though, is your kids haven't formed their own opinions yet. Right, and their character, you're forming their character. You know what I'm saying? Whereas in a relationship, more often than not, you're not going to change them. Right, you're 20-something, 30-something years old. Whoever that woman is when she got to this relationship, that's who she is. Right, for the most part, in terms of from a character perspective. Right. So what I'm saying is, you're going to be combated at times at a high level with a woman as compared to your child. Right, you're formulating your child's outlook. Well, you're giving your child the access to formulate their outlook on life, whereas with the woman, it's already formed. So now you're combating those things. You're combating what another dude had did to her prior to her being with you, right? Whereas your child, you're the most important man, in a lot of cases, the only man in their lives. You know what I'm saying? So I guess what I'm saying in short is it's probably easier to do it. In addition to them being your child, there's also you're not fighting.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
that obviously makes it. But then
like the platform that we start on with our daughter is fresh. There's
clean slate.
There's no history. There's no prehistory. There's nothing else that we are, like you said, but there's nothing we got to combat in order to get to a healthy space. Thinking about that is crazy, man, because I absolutely would say that, you can be in relationships and feel like, I sacrifice this for you, and we all can say that in a relationship and still not be shit in the relationship. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes I think, in hindsight, I leaned on the sacrifices I made in that relationship to kind of either mask or cover up my bullshit. You know what I mean? But in hindsight, I think that, yeah, my daughter is the first female that I ever put before myself on a consistent basis, and our relationship represents her priority to me. You know what I mean? Like you know, with my daughter is that's my baby. You know what I'm saying? So it shows in our relationship that I put her first. Right. Obviously, if I would have, I think along with some other things in past relationships, if I would have put them first, I think morally, from a moral concept, from a moral space, if I would have put them first, you know, who knows how the things would have worked out, but I definitely think they would have been better.
To that point you just made, P, I had a couple, not many, but enough of the situations to where my daughter observed her mom and I in a tense moment.
I was there for one of them.
So for a little while, whenever anything got hot, even with the pick up and drop off type thing, if anything ever got hot, I don't want to say she would cover her ears, but you could see like she was scared of her parents arguing. Yeah. So it's gotten to a point now where, or it's been this way, but like if there's ever any tension, I do my best to like pour in positivity to her. Like, and even it's little things like, you know, we don't agree on I don't know, the times for the school, whatever, I don't know, something. And I'm just like, yeah, you know, whatever, we'll figure it out. All right, cool. I love you, babe. Tell your mom I love her too. So I'm pouring this stuff into her so she still sees her father loving on her mother even in our separation.
So you don't what's what I'm looking for? Engage. So you're on the phone with her. You hear her mom in the background complain about a timing issue,
or whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever. Do you not engage in the conversation and just, you know, pour into Mia, or do you just?
No, I don't engage at all. I'll say, babe, you know, me and your mom will figure it out. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
And then her and I will have a conversation on the side or whatever. But in that moment, I try not to let her see any tension because she's witnessed a couple, and it's just like, I don't want that perception of her parents to continue to circulate in her head. Like she needs to see that peace between us. So whenever we go to like recitals or basketball game or something, we make it a real genuine family unit so she can see this peace, because I don't want her to have the memories of her parents being something.
Or that being synonymous with relationships.
Right. Or that being synonymous with relationships.
That part too, yeah, man. Right. I wish I could, I mean, you know, having, you know, 4 different women who, you know, you have a baby with, you can't expect them all to be on the same page. I definitely try to foster that camaraderie, that unity, that family unit, despite the fact that we're not together, we can be in the same space. I think, unfortunately, sometimes not everybody's on board with you. I know that's my experience with one of them. She just ain't on board with that shit. And then you got to realize that you can't force people to do things they don't want to do. You know what I mean? So, and then you have to find the balance, and then you have to struggle with the concept of what your child is seeing. My child said something to me recently that let me know he picks up on it. And it was not induced by me, it wasn't anything. And he said something so profound that I'm not going to repeat because it's just too personal. That made me be like, damn, man, he sees it. Like the thing I see, he sees too.
And there's nothing you can do in how you behave to make it feel different for him, at least?
So I've tried all that, but I think it gets to a point where you got to accept the fact that sometimes people just ain't going to fuck with you, whether you got a baby with them or not. You know what I'm saying? There's some point in time where you feel you've done all you can to make something better, but people got to be on board if you want to do that. You know what I mean? And granted, I co-parent with all of my, you know, the mothers of my children. And, you know, we're not cursing each other out. There's no violent thing like that. But sometimes just, you know, people ain't going to be on board. Sometimes, you know, it just ain't worth it to them. And you just got to accept that.
I was just about to say, I think that's a good segue to one of the questions. It's like, and I'm kind of combining a couple, but, well, Chief, let me ask you. So in your relationships, who's done the breaking up?
I think it goes both ways.
Okay. So in that case, is when you're broken up with, and Prentice for you for the first 2 you spoke about, if you're broken up with, are you healing from what you could have been in or what you guys could have been in a relationship, or where you envisioned it going, considering you didn't, end it, or are you getting over the fact that you just got broken up with?
I think it's definitely a combination of them both.
Not for me.
Not
Not for me. Go ahead, bud. I'm gonna shut up. But not for me.
So lately, as of late, I just because I've really like a lot of mirror talk. So I'm really self-aware. So when shit happens, I'm like, yo, what could you have done better? Why did this happen to you? Where were you, and why does she feel the way she feels? And I'm really, really processing it. And in that processing, I think I'm healing and preparing myself for the next relationship. You know what I'm saying? And granted, you don't want to carry anything from the last to the new, but I think I think what I bring over is a lesson learned. And I know every situation is different, but it's definitely don't make that mistake again.
So your ego's not bruised?
It is, but I think one of the questions, I think I did a good job of hiding it so she didn't know it was bruised.
That's not the question. That's not the question, though. Like, the question is, are we getting over the fact that as a man, somebody left us, right? Mm-hmm. And this is gonna sound real foul, so just bear with me, women. But put it this way: when I was younger, this is what I used to say. Like, when somebody would leave me or something like that, I'd be like, man, how's she gonna leave me? And I wasn't even cheating. I wasn't doing nothing. Like, I'm being good. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, how you gonna leave me? You know what I'm saying? But that for me at that time was ego, because it's like I'm being like I'm good, and it's crazy because that should be the expectation, but obviously it wasn't, right? But
so in your head, the only violation for her leaving is you cheating.
Me cheating, right. Like, everything else, there's nothing to talk about. Like, as far as I'm concerned.
That just goes to show how ain't shit we can be sometimes. But I used to be cheating left and right and still feeling so disrespected. You know? So, like, the way we rationalize shit sometimes, be doing dirt so wrong, and then the minute they do something that's out of pocket or out of bounds that we done did times 10, we blow out top. You know what I'm saying? This is right.
You think you are treating me like this?
Like this? I stopped fucking her 2 months ago for you.
So that's a good point. Like, I've been done messing with her. Like, you bringing up old stuff.
Right.
I stopped messing with her for you. I did this for you.
You know, one thing though that I think we could talk about. I wonder if there's other men out there like me. And in full transparency, I've always been somebody who was never able to be faithful, but always needed that one woman in my life, if that made sense, like that stability. Yet I just did not have the maturity or growth to just consistently be committed. And one thing that I noticed that I did starting from my first child is that I went from one relationship right to the other without dealing with anything. So I went from my first son's mother directly to my next relationship right around the time my first son was born. So keep that in mind. Then I have a baby there. Then I leave that relationship and get into another relationship and then have a baby there. And the whole time there are no gaps of healing. So then the relationship I'm in now, I swear to God, the only reason why I think it works is because I had the space and time to get Prentice together enough to be able to do what I had to do in order to be focused correctly in this relationship. But I wonder how many men acknowledge that the lack of a gap in between relationship, or there's other men who are like I was, who just went from one to another. I remember Chief, we were talking about, I think in the podcast, I don't know if it was a daddy issues or episode 1 of season 2, we were talking about why men don't change for good women, where we talked about fucking from one relationship to another. Mm-hmm. And I think that was my way of not dealing with whatever I needed to, but still feeling like I was okay. You know what I mean? Like, I'm out here.
So now in that time, you have now went from one relationship to 2 more and had children.
Right.
That's years upon years, and didn't recognize or didn't take an opportunity to heal. So you might have been doing the same shit you was doing in the first one, in the second, and in the third one.
I absolutely was. No question about it. Absolutely. Hands down, because I didn't take any time out to know Prentice. You know what I'm saying? I had my first baby at 27. You know what I'm saying? So then you hit your 30s, and I'm married by 31. So then there's a different place, and then I get divorced at 36, or I leave 36. And so I have no clue who Prentice is. You know what I mean? And when you get in a relationship, I think that's an easy way sometimes. For me, it was an easy way to assess what I felt I needed to assess in order for this relationship to be quote unquote successful, but I wasn't dealing with nothing about me. You know what I mean? Like there was nothing about me that I dealt with.
What my question is, what were you running from?
I don't know. Oh, I do know I was running from. I was running from being alone. And that goes to what we was talking about last week with the daddy issues, the abandonment issues. I just don't like being alone.
So here's another quote that I was watching Taraji and Gabrielle Union had a little thing, right? And Gabrielle Union said, in regards to like expressing the hurt and venting to people, she said, you've revealed too much and you're gonna scare them because damaged women aren't supposed to be lovable. And I felt like that was the same thing regarding men.
Oh yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like if you just, damaged men aren't supposed to be lovable, yet somehow we find our way into a bed somewhere and find comfort in that, and then end up tearing this woman apart because we haven't dealt with our own shit.
And then enter guilt. I did that to I absolutely know, hindsight, I did that with my second son's mother. I went from having this baby, and then when I started courting her, we interacted, I gave out all my business off top. You know what I mean? I'm about to have a baby on the way. Things ain't cool. Blah, blah, blah. I'm going through this. I'm going through that because I'm trying to present myself as damaged goods to this woman. You know what I mean? Like it's a way to kind of, deflect. So maybe if I tell her all my truth, all my real shit, I'm purging, but then she'll stay away from me and I ain't got to get into it. But then you find women who are accepting of what you go through and are willing to be a part of your journey and your process and are willing to help you heal, but you're not taking the time to do it yourself. You know what I mean? Like I didn't take the time to heal myself. I just gave her the drama I was going through. And then once I saw she was with it, I was like, okay, well, I like her. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not really dealing with my shit. So ultimately, I do the same thing to her. And I think that just goes to, we have to do the work. And then when we damage those women, we live with the guilt. And then if I enter guilt goes into my third relationship, which is my marriage, of being wrong or infidelity early in that. And now I'm in the relationship that can be unhealthy, but the guilt I have for what I did to that woman is what has me remaining here. You know what I mean? Or sometimes we kick ourselves as men because we've done so much dirt. We feel like it's karma and we deserve all this hurt and pain that we're now receiving.
So
and then the women get hurt.
I have a similar situation, but the guilt comes from a different thing. Like I wasn't cheating or doing nothing crazy, but this like 3 months into my relationship, my brother gets murdered. So I go into what I didn't identify as that time, but I go into a 2.5-year depression and couldn't identify it. So I was like a shell of a man in a relationship, but wasn't really doing nothing. Then finally, when I like pulled myself out and realized I was being a shit of a boyfriend, I decided to do something. We go to a Maxwell concert, Maxwell BBD, and somebody else. And I'm like, okay, this is gonna be dope. I cried from the time the concert started until the time the concert ended because
At a Maxwell concert?
But just because of what I was going through. So I'm
While
like,
Maxwell was singing, you was up there crying?
I'm
sorry. I know it's probably bad timing, but I'm just picturing you.
But that's what we got to do. We got to laugh sometimes. So I say that because I wasn't in a space where I was willing to deal with what I was going through. And if it could break up or loss, it's still loss. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't in a space to deal with that. And as a result, it impacted my relationship to a point where I think that had a lot to do with why it didn't go forward. Because by the time I had pulled myself out, I was like, yo, it's been way too long. Like it's been long enough and you still in this hole. You know what I'm saying? Because my EQ wasn't up and I wasn't prepared enough or mature enough or whatever to talk about shit. You know what I'm saying? To talk about what I had been through. And in another quote I was looking at said the worst, and this has nothing to do with the story, but it's like the worst being hurt by the person you explained your pain to.
Yeah, but I think I was gonna say this earlier, but we kept talking about something else. I guess my question, P, is you explaining or divulging, is you divulging all your pain in that relationship on the front end a way that you can remove yourself, or excuse me, as a way for you to be like, all right, well, I've done my part. Like almost like I don't got to do anything else because I told her where I'm at. And if she decides to deal with me, she has to deal with everything I'm coming with. You know what I'm saying? So almost like absolving yourself of blame, you know what I'm saying? For anything that you do, because like, hey, I told you I wasn't shit. You wanted the project, so you got to deal with what come with it.
Yeah, I in hindsight, I think so, man. And at the time, I think I was too innocent to realize that's what I was doing. But I think in hindsight, that's definitely what was happening, man. I think it was just putting something on the table and not necessarily, you know, dealing with the stuff I had to in order to get better, to be a better man for the next woman.
Yeah, because it's almost, man, it's almost like a scapegoat. Like you put it all out there, you get caught, you do something like, look, I told you. Right. You can't say I didn't tell you.
Yeah.
I told you I had a problem. You know what I'm saying?
One of the questions on our sheet is I don't know if there's an answer for it, but how much time is enough time before being able to, or before moving on? Although we've all jumped right into something that we weren't ready for.
That's not true. Let me touch on that real quick. So my last relationship, I was with her for like 7 years. Granted, I was in my early 20s, I was in college, I was wilding, all of that, right? I broke up with her in 2009. My wife at the time lived in the same area, like same state as my ex. And it had been a year since I had been down there. My wife and I, we weren't together. We were honestly just friends. We were just cool, you know, messing around here and there, but it wasn't anything, you know, more than that. And unbeknownst to me during that time, she thought it could be more and was excited to see what was going to happen when I went down there. So I get down there and soon as I crossed over, as soon as I got down there, I flew. And as soon as she picked me up, I started looking at the surroundings. And I'm like, damn. And it brought me back to my last relationship. Because the last time I've been down there was when I was with my ex.
And that was a year after
a year after.
Okay.
Right? So, and again, I don't realize I'm doing this. Like, I don't realize I'm doing this at all. And then later on, I find out that she told her roommate at the time, she's like, yeah, it's a wrap for him. She's like, he came down there, all he did was talk about his ex. Ooh. And bro, I promise you, I don't remember making that known. Like, I remember seeing the surroundings and feeling the way, you know what I'm saying? Again, ego, because my ex broke up with me. Ego, all of that. And I remember feeling that way, but that's what I was talking about before too. It's like, if you feel it, it's gonna come out. And if you don't express it, you're not gonna be able to control how it comes out. So you can't determine how it's gonna be received, right? So again, I didn't know all of this. And that was a year. Like, a year had passed. And I'm like, damn, maybe I'm not ready to break up or ready to be back with somebody. But that if she wanted to be my girlfriend at that time, I don't know what I would have done. But there definitely wasn't a cognizant thought that I wasn't ready. But based on my actions,
you weren't ready.
I definitely wasn't ready.
Right. And that was a year later.
Yeah.
So I wonder if the question is more so than not how much time is enough time before moving on, more so to focus on what are you doing within that time. You know what I'm saying? Because if you go a whole ass year, like if you hear somebody say, I broke up and a year later I come back out to this spot visiting a new woman, and all you doing is talk about the person from a year ago, it obviously ain't the duration of time. It's what you did within that time, within that
point.
year that has you still
Right.
talking about it while you with this new one. You know what I mean?
Part of
point.
our dilemma is, one, we don't even recognize that we're still holding on to those feelings because of the separation, and we haven't dealt with it. So when you go back to the familiar surroundings or something like that, it pops back up. Or when you finally decide to get your shit together and you go out and you realize, wow, I'm at a concert, shit should be cool, but I'm crying. I haven't dealt with my shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And
So,
my bad for laughing at you, but I know that was a
Don't
traumatic
apologize to that nigga, man. I laugh at him all the time.
I don't mean it, but I really don't.
I mean, I get it. You know what I'm saying? But my shorty didn't call me smash another dude, though.
True.
What?
True.
My shorty didn't call me smash.
Touche.
So we can play tit for tat.
Yeah.
Touche.
She got knocked off in a Hyundai hatchback.
Yeah, she was probably in the Kia Sportage, getting smashed up. Hey, this is a key part of therapy, man. You got to be able to laugh. But again, side note from this, a derail from this conversation, but in some cases, this is what we do as Black men or as men in general. We don't allow, we mask it with this laughter, and we sugarcoat it and make fun of the homeboy when he's trying to be vulnerable. I'm trying to tell you I was crying, and you like, stop, you know what I'm saying?
No,
but that's what we do.
But you know what's so crazy is it's twofold. You're trying to be vulnerable, and you're telling us, and I'm trying to be vulnerable too, but the only thing I can do is think to make a joke.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's like, look, man, I ain't ready for that vulnerability shit. Like, look, man, your breath stink. Brush your teeth.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So even in the middle of us willing to, and this is intent right now, with intent to be vulnerable, we still try to mask it with these jokes, and that's what we do, fellas. And we gotta start.
But you know what that's?
You gotta comfort your brother, B.
You know what that's subconsciously doing? The subconsciously doing is not addressing it. So like, hey, look, man, don't address that. Don't heal like that. Let's heal through laughter, right? Like, let that be a solution. But that isn't fixing anything.
Yeah, the work isn't being done.
Yeah, the work's
not being done.
Now, your mind might be off it because, we watching some funny shit or whatever. We having a good time. But when I leave, it's going to come up again.
Right. I still have
on
the ride home.
True, which goes back to the work.
Right.
Yeah.
On the ride home, like, I just had fun with my homies, but didn't get any work done.
No, word.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I think we had a pretty solid conversation. The last two things we'll end with. One, what is the biggest lesson you've learned via a relationship / breakup? So it could be, whatever. The biggest lesson you've learned.
Biggest lesson I learned.
I'll go first. Y'all think about it.
Go ahead.
So one of the biggest lessons I learned, and just in the relationship, was which was difficult for me, and which was probably going back to the survivor's remorse episode we're going to do, the separation of family versus family. And I say that because in living with a woman and a child, I was still the one my family called on when they needed something, when they needed an extra dollar, when they needed, you know what I'm saying? And I would constantly give, not realizing that I had a family at home that I had to take care of. And when you get in a situation like that, you have to learn the separation of family versus family. You got to be willing to tell these people no.
I think you have to be able to identify who your priority is.
Right.
Because they're both family, but you have to, and I know that's not what you were implying, but you have to identify. I went through the same shit when I moved in with Lo. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we can, if we do the episode, we can talk about it, but it's like both of us are patriarchs in our family. Right. Right. Yep. So it's like, we're the go-to for a lot. And you probably don't even realize how much you actually do until somebody points it out.
And that's what it took.
And the messed up thing for that person, and I'll speak for Lo, is you kind of like, I lashed out initially. Because I'm like, who are you to say, you know what I'm saying, yada, yada, yada. But then the more I thought about it, I'm like, damn, she's right.
She's right, 100%.
Yeah, she's right. Like, I can't be doing all of this stuff at the sacrifice of my I was gonna say my primary family, my immediate family, my immediate
in-home
family.
Right. And so that was a big lesson for me. Like I'm just, again, the patriarch of the family. I'm constantly leaned on for whatever it is, and I'm like, yeah, I got it. I'll figure it out guy. So they call me like, don't worry about it, he'll figure it out, and that's been the nature of it. But in doing so, I would often neglect, not necessarily neglect. I would neglect my in-home immediate family. And that was a big lesson for me to have to like, to adjust, be able to tell my family, even my immediate family, no, like, I got to take care of home first.
But the other thing that also does in terms of, in addition to neglecting your in-home immediate family, is you're not allowing your family the space to figure it out.
Right.
Right. Because you are the figure out.
Right. And that's right. Right. So that's my biggest lesson in a relationship or a breakup. What about now? Y'all
my biggest lesson in a relationship and a breakup, again, I've only been in what I like to consider 3 real relationships. And the one I always reference is my ex, because we were together for the longest and yada, yada, yada. But I think recognizing your faults early, right? Like that would have been one big thing for me. Recognize, because I was aware. And I shouldn't say recognize, I should say communicating your faults early. And like when we talked about this, Prentice, you said you actually prefer this. I talked about how low we have like quarterly relationship reviews, right? Like checking in and stuff like that. Yeah. And it's like, that's, as much as I hate doing it, like that's a good practice. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a good practice to figure out where we stand. And we know, we ain't stupid, man. Like we know what we're not doing. Now, whether we choose to acknowledge it or not, that's a whole nother situation. But I think that's probably the biggest lesson for me. And then also, too, is another lesson, and Prentice, maybe you can speak to this, considering that this is your relationship, your current relationship. But I feel like women in general, and I'm kind of going off on a rant, but I think women in general do a better job at knowing what they want, right? Yeah. Just in general. I think they do a better job of knowing what they want. And I think
and expressing what they want.
Yeah. And I think men, we base what we want on what we didn't get, right? In our last relationship, right?
That's 80-20.
Yeah. It's like, okay, well, I didn't get this. Well, I know I need this now because I didn't get it and I know how that impacted me. But I don't think that we have an overall, like, here's what my overarching need is this, or my needs are this, right? Another thing that I learned is what I want, right? Like what I want and what I need. Probably what I need more than what I want. Like that I think is important. So what I needed, I realized I didn't have when I got into this relationship. You know what I'm saying?
Now, did you become aware of those needs because your lady kind of assisted you in developing that thought? Or was it something you pulled from your last relationship?
It was who she was.
Right.
It was who she was. And I was like, I didn't realize I needed that structure. And she provided that. You know what I'm saying? But now I know, like, God forbid, if this doesn't work out, now I can be like, if I'm in another relationship, like, I need this, and this.
Yeah.
Right. And before I even say that, I can see it. Right. So if I'm dating and I'm like, like this ain't it. Like I know what I need and this ain't it.
You know, I think like for me, I think the biggest lessons I've taken out of relationships are the most important is the one thing that I absolutely did not do. And I feel like my circumstances talking about breakups don't really necessarily count because I always went from one right to another. I never gave myself time. You know what I'm saying? Like I never gave myself time. I kind of just did what I want, but you have to give yourself time and know where you're at in life out of the sake of yourself and the other person, so you don't put them through extra shit to know if that's really what you're trying to get into. You know what I mean? Like you you have to, I would say there's a certain level of confidence and knowledge of self that you got to have too in relationships, because again, if you go in unsure of who you are and you're basing your behavior off of how they feel about you, it's still not you in control. You know, so I feel like we got to kind of have I feel like you got to have a certain amount of control within yourself in order to go into a healthy relationship. And then also, the one thing that really taught me what I needed out of a relationship, especially the relationship I'm in now, the one thing that really gave me clarity and allows me to communicate to Sarai, like, yo, this is what I like or need, is the trauma I realized I brought into the relationship from past relationships. And because I had some time before getting into this relationship, I was in a space now where when it pops up, I can be like, oh shit, this is from This is from there. This ain't got nothing to do with her. And also being transparent, I think, within your relationship about your previous relationships. I think that's one thing as men sometimes, I can't say as men because I don't necessarily know, but for me, sometimes I leave certain shit out that may be real pertinent information for her so she can get better understanding of when I respond this way or when I react this way. It's because of certain things that may have transpired before, but when the trauma popped up or when certain things popped up that I didn't like in my current relationship, I was able to pinpoint where it came from because I gave myself time before getting into this job. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I had the space to be aware enough so I could be like, oh, shit, that ain't got nothing to do with her. That got to do with her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think we do that a lot. And sometimes, I'll use one thing I used to do too early on in my current relationship is I was quick during a time of conflict to throw in some shit I've been through in my previous relationship. So
justification.
No, because she did this to me and I ain't gonna do this again. And I ain't, so that bravado come out and you feel like you gotta draw a line in the sand with this fresh woman when you got this clean canvas because you still mad at the last picture you painted.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm mad at this shit. So no, we ain't gonna paint it this way. We gonna, and you're taking the shit from your past relationship and automatically inputting it into the one you got now. You know what I mean? And how you gonna start anew if you're bringing all that old shit into this? But then again, the flip side is I don't know if as men or even as people is when we break up, we go, okay, so what are the shit I need to work on?
Right.
But remember, in order for you to do that, you got to get past the ego.
Exactly.
Right?
So if you're spending all your time on your ego hype,
right,
you're not going to look at what you need to change.
100%.
But when we pause for a moment, people don't know, but Bell and I was like, yo, I don't feel like there's enough substance in this. And
I'm thinking the same thing.
We always second guess what's going on. I'm going to leave this in. I'm not going to edit this out. I'm going to leave this in here because I think even though we didn't feel like it was enough substance in this, I think people will still pull from this and validate our conversation. Not that we need it, but I think they'll still pull something from this and be like, yo, they're right. Or wow, I did that too. Or wow, I feel that way too. So everything, that we put on the table isn't going to be, as poignant and as aggressive and emotional as daddy issues. But I think they're all conversations that we need to have and we need to put on the table.
I think that's a very good point.
They're
necessary. The conversations are necessary.
This conversation has me feeling like more upset with myself because I noticed that I can't talk about relationships without talking about cheating. You know what I'm saying? And that's bothering me in the space I'm in now. You're like, damn, P, I don't know what information to give people because it's almost as if I look at and here I go, because I was cheating so much that I ain't got nothing, no valid input to give, or I don't have, you know what I'm saying? I don't have enough credibility because I wasn't faithful in my relationship in that manner. You know what I mean? So it has me like,
it's called Imposter Syndrome, right? Like you're talking about a place where you were, and because you were doing what you were doing, you feel like when you talk about it, you're being an imposter, right? Like it's like how can I talk about, what to reflect on in a relationship if I cheated in all my goddamn relationships? You know what I'm saying? But yeah. I think it's more where you are now, man. Right? Reflection. Like you said it. You did something in this current relationship that you hadn't done in the previous 3. Right? So that in and of itself, whether it was intentional when you did that or it was happenstance, it happened, right? And it allowed for you to heal. So
and it allows you to stand in your truth too. You know what I mean? I gotta own this shit. You know what I mean? It's nothing that I ain't never wrote about it.
But you don't have to continue to beat yourself up about it though.
Yeah, I'm not beating myself up about it. I just feel like I wish I had more to give to the people without constantly somehow the negative traits or the negative aspects of me in my relationships always popping up.
Yeah, trust me, Pete, there's a habitual line stepper cheater out there like you
to us,
that's listening right now. That's like yo,
listen.
You know what I'm saying?
I get it, but I don't want to glorify. I know I'm not glorifying it, but I want it. After a while, man, I just feel like I think the biggest thing is I realized there's so much more to me and how much I didn't allow myself to discover about myself, and even the women I was in a relationship with at that time, because I chose not to do that part correctly.
Let me ask you this. Did you forgive yourself?
For all the cheating?
Yeah.
Yes, I have. It took a long time and to forgive myself for it. But yes, I absolutely have. And the reason why I absolutely have is I think it's even crazy, bro. Like, I think it took me receiving certain type of energy from the women I cheated on in order for me to forgive myself. Like, it took me being like, you know, post-relationship, because those are my most significant relationships other than one I had before I had a baby. I had one significant relationship prior to having a baby, but the relationship I think about, I have children with these women, but it took me receiving a certain type of energy for me to be like, oh, I'm not about to hold on to this for no longer, and I gotta go through this. You know what I mean? Like, what? I gotta, you know, we got this conflict going right now, and here I am still feeling guilty years later for what I did. So it's weird, because I think the catalyst to me forgiving myself was a form of self-punishment. You know, like taking all that energy that you can receive from other people, and then finally deciding, like, I've had enough. And I feel like I'm gonna keep receiving certain type of energy and keep absorbing certain type of negativity in my life from certain people because I feel guilty about what I did to them. But I don't want to accept what they're giving me anymore. So I can't, you know what I mean? I can't continue to be mad and beat up myself and be guilty about this relationship that ended years ago. You know what I mean? Like, I gotta get over it.
Yeah,
and once I started doing that, it made the interactions with me even healthier for me. You know what I mean? Because I forgave myself. So now I'm not walking into any type of situation with my chin down, you know, feeling like I don't deserve to really have a platform to speak.
Do you feel better about the new you right now?
Absolutely, man. It's
And
and
that,
I wonder how many other brothers, you know, deal with just carrying that bag of burden over their shoulder.
I
You know
think,
what I'm saying? And embracing for the impact all the time. So we just pull out that bag to justify, you know, the shit that happens to us.
I think we have to give ourselves the grace to evolve.
Yeah.
In addition to patting ourselves on the back for the small victories. You know what I'm saying? Because we're not going to change it all overnight. But if we're making strides towards doing what we got to do, and I can attest to it because I was high ego strong, I guess. I wouldn't back down from an argument. You know, I had to win, and the fellas would constantly check me, like, you really argue about that? You know what I'm saying? And I had to, like, check myself, like, yo, that's kind of crazy. You're right. Like, it's a frivolous argument that I don't need to be getting myself into. And I did a lot of work at, like, just picking my battles now. And I don't really even care to argue at all anymore whatsoever over anything.
I'm the same exact way, and I love that shit. Like, now when it comes to conflict, I think the only time I'm jumpy is when it comes to my children, because of how fatherhood started off with me having a son who, you know, right after he was born is now going to Florida, and the courts wouldn't let him stay. You know what I mean? So I'm real jumpy with my kids, but in times of conflict, it is such a refreshing feeling to feel more at peace, to feel like, you know what? I don't even have a desire, you know what I mean, to be negative or to fight back the same way I did. And I think, you know, men need to hear that there's a lot of growth and evolving in forgiving yourself, man. There really, really is.
Gina, this happened a couple of days ago after we had the conversation you had. You sent us, you know, the conversation you had, and then the next shot, your tone and energy was completely different.
Yup.
You know what I'm saying? And it was, okay, let me catch myself in this moment. I kind of blacked real quick, but you know what? Nah, I'm gonna smooth this out and move in a more positive direction. I think that was dope.
And the thing I noticed too, I think I have the most communication with my oldest son's mother. We have a great, healthy relationship. She's always gotten it the worst from me. And I think because she had to do what she felt she had to do with her life and move to Florida, and my son went. So I always had this, you definitely are not about to run over on me, you know, on this parenting or fatherhood tip after what you did type of deal. But that aided me so much. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's aided me so much over the years. So when you get to a point where they see your growth, so the way they respond, she sees my growth, so the way she responds in moments is even different and even healthier.
Right. And
Because now she sees that I'm trying to work on that. You know what I mean? So when I jumped, she texted me a while ago off a conversation. She said something that rubbed me the wrong way, and I immediately corked back at it. And I had to catch myself and be like, okay, let me elaborate rather than bark. And then her response was, okay, I get what you're saying. I apologize. And here we are on a mutual understanding, you know what I'm saying? And we can move forward, where if it would have been a year or two ago, who knows, you know, what the temperature would have been. So I think when we are truly working on ourselves, other people recognize that growth.
Right.
And it can influence how they interact with us too.
And ultimately, in that work, you are now teaching people how to treat the new you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I teach my oldest son that. I'm like, yo, like, he was actually talking to one of his homeboys, and he sent me a screenshot of text message. He's like, yeah, my dad always tells me, you teach people how to treat you. And it was kind of cool to see him delivering that message, you know what I'm saying? So it's real cool, especially in terms of growth. Like, you ever see the meme where it's like, I'm not that same person you knew from a while ago or whatever. So that growth is always dope, especially when people recognize it.
I got a question for y'all. What have you ever had a situation where you've made a couple of changes, you made some adjustments that were major to you? You know, like, other people may not look at it, like you mentioned it, Chief, like they may not look at it as a big deal, but those small victories, and you're super hyped and proud of the victory and proud of whatever change, and then you present it to somebody, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, and you get that response that doesn't fit. Have you ever had that situation where, you know, somebody's giving you energy that you felt you didn't deserve at the time? And if so, how do you deal with that? Like, in the process of growth, how do you deal with the people who aren't convinced?
So in the nature of what I do for a living is constantly putting out fires as a dean of students, you know what I'm saying? So kids come in my office and they're on level, they went from 0 to 100, and they come in and they're barking at me, and I'm like, hi, like, I have nothing to do with why you're here. Let's talk about it. So with that comes a shitload of practice in how to respond when people are on a different page than I am. So I'm not, when confrontation or negative tension or energy comes my way, I'm very capable now of sitting back going, okay, this clearly is either not, has something totally not to do with me.
I don't know if that's what he's asking.
No, I'm saying, or I'm able to now accept how they view whatever it is I'm going through, or the new me, and go, okay, they think 2 + 2 is 5. You got it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm able to sit back and go, well, they may not agree. They may not give me the respect I deserve in this moment, but that's cool because I'm proud of the accomplishment I made.
Are you asking, P, because based on their reaction, will that determine if you actually follow through with the growth or the change that you made? Like, if you, and I'm just asking, I'm just trying to get more clarity. If you're saying, like, hypothetically, like, this is very trivial, but you stop leaving the toilet seat up, right? Something like that. And it's been 30 days and you realize, damn, I haven't left the toilet seat up once. And then you go to your lady, like, look, babe, I've been doing good. I haven't left the toilet seat up for 30 days.
Well, you left it up for 6 months, so you should be better in 30 days.
Right.
That type of.
Yes. Does that now make you, I'm assuming that, like, okay, now, do you revert back to your always? Well, fuck it, then I'm gonna leave the toilet seat up every time. If I'm not gonna get no credit for me changing, why I'm gonna change?
Right. I think that's one of the thought processes that can pop up when you face that type of resistance. You know what I mean? So I'm thinking from the space of, like, the men who are listening to us right now who are going through a transition. Like, I'm deep in the shift right now. I'm in a super heavy shift. While you're in that shift and that transition, especially if it's in the premature stage of the transition, you just can't expect everybody to be on board. You just cannot. Anybody from a past relationship to your mama, to your brother, your sister, everybody is not always going to be on board based off of their perception of you, how they view you, how they see you, their experience with you. So if you face that type of opposition, how do you deal with it? Like, Chief, you sound like Buddha to me. Like, were you able to just be like, okay, well, cool. If you're not with it, you're not with it. People like me ain't there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not there. I'm like, do you know how? I'm not gonna say it nowadays. I'm not gonna say it, but in my mind, I'm like, I've worked so hard to change this, and here you are giving me some energy that just don't fit the bill of what I'm trying to be about. How do you process that without lashing out, giving the energy back, and staying the course?
My answer to that is, it's not about them, right? You're not changing that for them. That may be the catalyst, right? But you're changing it for yourself, right? I guess what I'm saying is it has to be a behavior that deep down you want to change or know you need to change. Now, the catalyst of how you get there, it doesn't matter. But so I guess what I'm saying is if you have that conviction around whatever that is that needs to be changed, it shouldn't matter. Now, will it matter in real time? Yeah, you might be tight, like, that's foul. Like, you're not even going to give me my credit. Well, it's all good. I'm doing this for all the right reasons anyway. Almost like I don't need your validation because I know it's the right thing. You know what I mean? If you have that conviction.
And that is exactly why I gave you the whole story, because that was part of my thing was I was quick to snap. I'm so in a position now where I'm sitting here going, oh, a year ago, that would have went left, all the way left. So I'm sitting back and I'm smiling, proud of myself. And listen, 2 + 2 is 5. You got it. And I'm able to walk away cool because I know what could have happened based on who I was before these shifts in my life.
Makes sense.
I personally think that this is going in a direction where people can pull some shit from. People who are listening, supporting, we appreciate you, and let us know your thoughts.
Yeah, hit us up on Twitter too. We just started a Twitter. I don't know if not one of us posted yet. I don't think, but hit us up so we get some followers. All Black Men Need Therapy at Twitter is our Twitter handle.
We on all Black Men Need Therapy on most social media outlets. All Black Men Need Therapy at Gmail. Hit us up. We'd love to know your thoughts, topics you think we could discuss, all that good stuff, man.
Another thing too, if you guys have some podcasts that you feel like we should be a part or start listening to get a better understanding, if it's in line with what we're talking about, give us some suggestions too. I know we got some people hitting us up, asking us to be guests,
which is pretty cool, by the way.
Yeah,
shout out to y'all.
That's dope. We've been getting a lot of activity, which I'm grateful for and appreciative of. And I respond. We respond to everybody too. So just so y'all know.
Yeah, definitely.
Now who's responding of the 3? I don't know, but we will be speaking on behalf of all Black Men Need Therapy. Right. Whoever responds.
Right.
So so definitely keep it going. And yeah, hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You think we should get a TikTok, man? You gonna be on there pop locking?
I'm not TikToking. I did get a request. Somebody said we should get on Clubhouse. I don't know much about it.
Yeah, I saw. No, that's the 2 people said Clubhouse.
Yeah.
My homegirl hit me up and said the same thing.
With that being said, final thoughts. P, what you got?
Drink water.
Such an idiot.
I'm serious. I'm dead serious. Like, we're supposed to be doing it on the subject. My bad. That was my initial final thought. Like, drink water. I've been drinking a lot more water and I feel a lot better lately. On subject, I don't know what my final thought is with this conversation.
Did you pull any type of therapeutic intervention from this conversation?
The most profound thing that I heard that really had me thinking is my daughter the first woman I ever put ahead of myself? You know what I mean? Like, I really am sitting on that right now and really analyzing and thinking about, like, I know how I feel about my daughter. And with the second one coming, I think that's why I'm even more, like, mush about it. I know how I feel about her and what I put into place and the calm I show, the restraint, anything that has to do with her. I always try to be on point. I'm really thinking about if I really was putting these women before myself in these relationships, or was I just convincing myself that I was?
Probably the latter.
Right. Shout out to Will Smith though. Shout out to Will Smith. Said the only female relationship I've ever had that I didn't mess up was with his daughter.
Yeah. So that's something I think is definitely gonna be on my brain once we get off this call.
If that's the case, then this episode was a success. Period. Right?
Yeah.
If it's leaving you thinking about something that you can either change, alter, or just, ponder on.
Be better at.
Yeah, like this is success. You know what I'm saying? As far as my final thought, is know yourself before you try to give yourself to somebody.
Put it on a t-shirt.
That's
Put it on a t-shirt. Know yourself before you try to give yourself to somebody.
So real, man. You do a lot of damage along the way. If you don't.
You want to leave it at that? Because that was pretty profound. You don't gotta elaborate on that at all.
Yeah.
For me, I think it's been pretty consistent every episode, but do the work. Don't be afraid to look in the mirror, man, and give yourself the grace to evolve before you jump into the next bed. Seriously, man, because we do that often as men, and it doesn't help us heal. And we don't realize we're doing it until many years have passed, and now we're alone and wondering why.
You talk about yourself?
You trying to be? No, I'm cool.
Yo, my man's still single, y'all. Just so y'all know.
Out here, fully employed, raising kids.
You know what I mean? He's seeing the therapist now. Like,
I'm doing the work.
Getting healthy out here. Getting healthy.
Yo, it's been. I appreciate it, man. I'm excited to hear some feedback about it. So people, please hit us up at allblackmenneedtherapy@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook. DM us.
Twitter.
DM us.
All
and we'll definitely respond. We try to respond to everybody. We want to get to a point where it's just overwhelming and we can't get back to everybody. So tell a friend to follow us and show us some love. And
shout out to all of you. We had 1,000 downloads in the last 30 days. And just for perspective, since we started this, we have 4,000. So that means 25% of our downloads came in the last 30 days, which is all you guys. So we appreciate the love.
Right.
We appreciate you sharing, and we're gonna continue. Right, like I said, we started this thinking that we knew at least 7 people was gonna listen.
Right.
And now we got we got people in Bangladesh, South Africa, Korea, Japan, all of that. So we feel the love. It's appreciated, and we're gonna keep it going.
For sure. Email us, hit us up. With that being said, do us all a favor and hug a black man today and tomorrow. We out.
Peace.
My bad, blood. I forgot to do it.
It's all good. We're going to do it. You don't got to do it.
No, leave it. Leave that. Leave that.
You got to say, but your thing was, all right, y'all. I think that's what you said, right? He's like, all right, y'all. Like,
no, I said, do it.
Do it.
You should end it right there. I'm
going to leave it up. We're going to do it again. With that being said, do us all a favor and hug a black man today.
Do it.
And tomorrow.
Do it.
We out.
Peace.
You know what I'm going to do, man? From now on, I'm going to start saying it in a different language every podcast.
Saying what? Do it?
Do it.
Do it. We're gonna create some trends around this motherfucker, man.
Word. All right.
How you feel about that?
You know, it'd be dope if you, at minimum, start with the countries that's listening to us.
That would be dope, yo. To go to Bangladesh on these hoes.